Stop. Don't skip this. Because what I'm about to tell you sounds dramatic, but it's real. There's a penny, an ordinary, worn, forgettable penny, that collectors are watching very closely right now. And most people have no idea why. It doesn't shine. It doesn't look expensive. In fact, it looks like the exact coin you drop on the ground and never pick up. And that's the dangerous part. Behind the scenes, certain pennies are getting harder to find. Not because they're being advertised, not because they're in news, but because collectors quietly remove them from circulation the moment they spot one. They don't announce it. They don't warn anyone. They just secure it, and it disappears. Every time someone spends one without checking, the remaining supply shrinks. Every year, fewer show up in pocket change, and once they move into private collections, they rarely return. Here's what makes this unsettling. The difference between a common penny and a highly valuable one can be a detail so small most people never notice it. A slight variation, a subtle error, a tiny production difference. You could have already held one. You could have already spent one. Or maybe it's sitting somewhere in your home right now. But if you don't look closely, someone else will. And once that coin leaves your hands, you'll never know what it could have become. Money bag. Before you skip past this, check your change. Because the 1957 D-Wheat penny might look like a common coin, but under the right conditions, it can be worth far more than 1 cent. The year 1957 was near the end of the Lincoln Wheat cent series. Just 1 year later, in 1959, the design would change to the Lincoln Memorial reverse. That makes 1957 one of the final chapters of the classic wheatback era that began in 1909. On the front of the coin, you see Abraham Lincoln's profile. Above him, the words, "In God We Trust." To the left, liberty. To the right, the date 1957. And just below the date, a small D. That D is critical. It means the coin was minted at the Denver Mint. In 1957, the Denver Mint produced over 1 billion wheat pennies, more than 1,051,000,000 pieces. That's a massive mintage. At first glance, that makes the 1957 D seem extremely common. And in circulated condition, it is. But here's what most people don't understand. In coin collecting, value is not just about how many were made. It's about how many survive in high grade today. Most 1957 D-Wheat pennies went straight into circulation. They were used daily in vending machines, stores, and gas stations throughout the late 1950s and 1960s. As a result, many surviving examples show wear. Look closely at Lincoln's hair. In circulated coins, the detail above his ear becomes flat. The cheek loses sharpness. The jawline blends into the rest of the portrait. Flip the coin over and inspect the wheat stalks. In worn examples, the fine lines inside the wheat become weak or completely smooth. Now imagine finding a 1957 D-Wheat penny with full detail, strong luster, and minimal contact marks. That's where things get interesting. Uncirculated examples are far more desirable than worn ones. And within uncirculated coins, there are levels of quality. The sharpness of the strike matters. The brightness of the luster matters. The number of small contact marks matters. And then there's color. Copper coins are classified as brown, red-brown, or red. Most 1957 D pennies you'll see are brown or red-brown due to oxidation over time. But full red examples, coins that still have their original bright orange-red mint color, are significantly more valuable in high grades. A mint state brown coin might be worth a modest premium. A mint state red coin in high grade can be worth many times more. In top certified grades, values can climb dramatically, especially for coins with exceptional eye appeal. Now, let's talk about something even more exciting. The 1957 double die obverse. While the 1957 double die is most famous from the Philadelphia Mint without mint mark, you should still inspect every 1957 D carefully. Look closely at the lettering In God We Trust, and Liberty. True double die coins show clear separation in the design, not just blurry or machine doubling. The doubling appears as a distinct second image. Even though the major double die variety is associated with the Philadelphia issue, Collectors examine all 1957 coins carefully because varieties and minor doubling can still carry premiums. You should also inspect the mint mark. Sometimes repunched mint marks occur when the D was stamped more than once at slightly different angles. Under magnification, you may notice a shadow or overlapping effect around the letter. These varieties are collectible and can increase value. Next, look for errors. Off-center strikes, where the design is shifted noticeably to one side. Clipped planchets, where part of the coin's edge is missing due to a cutting error. Lamination errors, where the metal appears to peel or split. Die cracks, visible as raised lines across the coin surface. Even small errors can make a common date coin far more desirable. Now, here's something extremely important. Never clean your 1957 D-wheat penny. Cleaning removes the original mint surface and leaves scratches that collectors immediately notice. Even wiping a coin with a cloth can reduce its grade. Collectors prefer natural toning and original surfaces, even if the coin looks slightly dull, over artificially brightened pieces. If you believe you have a high grade or error example, consider professional authentication and grading. A certified grade gives buyers confidence and can significantly affect value. Now, let's talk about why the 1957 D remains popular. It's one of the last wheatback pennies ever made. For many collectors, completing a full wheat cent collection means including the 1957 D in the highest grade they can afford. High-grade red examples are especially competitive because collectors building registry sets compete for the finest known pieces. Even though more than 1 billion were minted, the number of superb, flawless survivors is far smaller than you might think. Over decades, coins have been spent, damaged, cleaned, lost, or melted. Top-condition coins become scarcer every year. And that's why people still search rolls of pennies today, because sometimes a high-grade 1957 D-wheat penny is still hiding in circulation or in an old collection. Think about this. The 1957 D-wheat penny is nearly 70 years old. It circulated during the Eisenhower era. It was used before the moon landing, before the internet, before smartphones. It passed through countless hands. And today, it might be sitting unnoticed in a jar of coins. Most people see a 1957 penny and assume it's too modern to be valuable. But that assumption is where opportunities are missed. Because value isn't just about age. It's about condition. It's about rarity within grade. It's about color. It's about errors. So here's what you should do. Check the date. Carefully, 1957. Look for the D mint mark below the date. Examine Lincoln's hair for sharp detail. Inspect the wheat stalks on the reverse. Look at the color, brown, red-brown, or red. Search closely for doubling or unusual features. And most importantly, leave it exactly as you found it. Because that small copper coin from 1957 might only be worth a few cents, or, in exceptional condition, it could be worth far more than you ever expected. And until you look closely, you'll never know. Sometimes the most overlooked coins are the ones quietly holding surprising value. And the 1957 D-wheat penny is proof that even a coin made by the billions can still hide rare opportunities for those who know what to look for. Before you assume this is just another common old penny, check the date carefully. If it says 1957 and there is no mint mark under the date, you might be looking at one of the most talked about wheat pennies of the late 1950s. The 1957 wheat penny was minted in Philadelphia, and that year, the Philadelphia Mint struck over 282 million coins. On paper, that makes it common, and in circulated condition, it usually is. But here's where things change. The 1957 wheat penny is famous for one very important reason. The 1957 doubled die obverse. And this is where collectors start paying serious attention. First, let's understand the basic design. On the front, you see Abraham Lincoln's portrait. Above his head, "In God We Trust." To the left, liberty. To the right, the date 1957. On the reverse, 2 wheat stalks frame the words 1 cent and United States of America. This classic wheat design ran from 1909 to 1958, and 1957 is one of the final 2 years of the series. Now, let's talk about the variety that made this coin famous. The 1957 double die obverse is a major error variety caused during the die creation process. When the die was made, the design was impressed twice at slightly different angles that created visible doubling on the coin. And this is not minor doubling. On genuine 1957 double die coins, the doubling is bold and dramatic. Look at the words "In God We Trust." The letters appear clearly doubled, almost like a shadow image next to each letter. Look at Liberty. Strong doubling. Even the date can show doubling. This is one of the most noticeable double die coins in the entire Lincoln Wheat series. Now, here's something important. There's a difference between true double die and machine doubling. Machine doubling is common and usually flat, shelf-like, and less valuable. True double die doubling shows rounded, separated images with clear spread. That difference determines whether you have a common coin or a highly collectible variety. A regular 1957 wheat penny in circulated condition might only be worth a small premium over face value. But a genuine 1957 double die obverse? That's a completely different story. Even in worn condition, authentic double die examples can sell for significant premiums. In uncirculated grades with strong red color, values can climb into the hundreds or even thousands depending on condition. Now, let's talk about condition because that's the second major factor controlling value. Most 1957 pennies entered circulation immediately. They were used in daily commerce throughout the late 1950s and 1960s. In circulated examples, you'll notice wear on Lincoln's hair, flattening on the cheek, and fading detail on the wheat stalks. But uncirculated coins still retain mint luster, that bright, almost glowing copper shine. And then comes color classification. Copper coins are categorized as brown, red-brown, or red. Brown coins have fully toned over time. Red-brown coins retain partial original mint color. Full red coins still display their original bright orange-red copper color. For collectors, red examples in high mint state grades are the most desirable. A 1957 brown coin may be modestly priced. A 1957 red coin in high grade can be worth many times more, and a 1957 double die in high grade red, that's where competition between collectors becomes serious. Now, let's discuss something many people overlook. Even though 282 million coins were minted in Philadelphia in 1957, not all survive today in top condition. Coins get spent, lost, damaged, cleaned, corroded, and cleaning is something you must never do. Cleaning a 1957 wheat penny, especially a potential double die, can destroy its value instantly. Even light rubbing leaves microscopic scratches. Collectors prefer original surfaces, even if they look darker or toned. If you believe you've found a double die example, examine it under magnification. Look specifically at "In God We Trust, Liberty," the date 1957. Strong, clear separation in the lettering is the key. If the coin looks promising, consider professional authentication. Certification confirms whether the doubling is genuine and assigns an official grade, which significantly affects market value. Beyond double dies, you should also check for off-center strikes, clip planchets, lamination errors, die cracks. While these are less common, they can add premium value to an otherwise ordinary coin. Now think about this. The 1957 wheat penny was minted just 2 years before the wheat design was replaced by the Lincoln Memorial Reverse in 1959. That means it represents the final era of the original Lincoln wheat cent design introduced in 1909. It circulated before the space race peaked, before color television became widespread, before the modern era most of us know today, and yet today, it might still be hiding in circulation. Most people see a 1957 penny and assume it's too modern to matter. But the famous double die variety proves otherwise. Sometimes the most valuable coins aren't the oldest. They're the ones with the right mistake. So here's what you should do right now. Check the date, 1957. Look for the absence of a mint mark. That confirms Philadelphia. Examine In God We Trust and Liberty carefully. Look for bold, clear doubling, not flat machine doubling. Inspect the coin's color, brown, red-brown, or red. Check for strong detail in Lincoln's hair and the wheat stalks. And, most importantly, leave the coin exactly as it is. Because a simple 1957 wheat penny might be worth just a few cents. Or, if it's the famous double die obverse in strong condition, it could be worth far more than you ever imagined. And until you look closely, you'll never know. Sometimes history hides in plain sight, even in a coin most people would spend without a second thought. Before you overlook this coin, check the date carefully. If it says 1954 and there's a small D under the year, you're holding a 1954 D-wheat penny, a coin from the final years of the classic wheatback design that ran from 1909 to 1958. At first glance, it may not seem special. Abraham Lincoln on the front, In God We Trust across the top, Liberty on the left, the date 1954 on the right, and beneath the date, a small D for Denver. Flip it over and you'll see the familiar wheat stalks framing 1 cent and United States of America. Simple, classic, easy to ignore. But here's what most people don't realize. In 1954, the Denver Mint produced over 251 million wheat pennies. That sounds like a lot, and it is. In circulated condition, the 1954 D is common and usually worth only a small premium over face value. But coin collecting is not just about mintage numbers. It's about condition, color, and quality. Most 1954 D pennies were heavily circulated during the 1950s and 1960s. They were used daily in stores, vending machines, and banks. Because of that, many surviving examples show noticeable wear. Look closely at Lincoln's hair. In worn coins, the detail above his ear becomes flat. The cheek loses sharpness. The jawline blends into the portrait. Now flip the coin over. On circulated pieces, the wheat stalk lines begin to fade. The fine detail inside the wheat grains may be weak or smooth. But if you find a 1954 D with sharp hair detail, bold wheat lines, strong rims, and original mint luster, that's where value begins to climb. Uncirculated coins are much more desirable than worn ones. And within uncirculated coins, there are levels. Collectors pay attention to strike quality, surface preservation, luster strength, contact marks, eye appeal. Now, let's talk about something extremely important with copper coins. Color. Copper coins are classified as brown BN, red-brown RB, or red RD. Most 1954 D pennies you'll find today are brown. Over time, copper naturally oxidizes and darkens. Red-brown coins still retain some original mint color mixed with toning. But full red coins, those that still show bright, original copper color, are the most valuable in high grades. A mint state brown coin might carry a modest premium. A mint state red coin in high grade can be worth many times more. In top certified grades with strong red color and minimal marks, values can rise significantly because collectors building registry quality sets compete for the finest known examples. Now, let's discuss errors and varieties. While the 1954 D is not known for a famous major double die like some other years, you should still inspect it carefully. Look for repunched mint marks. Sometimes the D was stamped more than once, slightly misaligned. Under magnification, you might see a shadow or doubling around the mint mark. Die cracks, raised lines caused by cracked dies during minting. Lamination errors, splits, or peeling in the metal. Off-center strikes, where the design is noticeably shifted to one side. Clipped planchets, where part of the coin's edge is missing due to a cutting error. Even small errors can increase collector interest. Here's something many people don't think about. By 1954, coin production was becoming more efficient. That means many coins were well struck. But finding one that survived nearly 70 years without heavy contact marks or discoloration is much harder than you might expect. And here's a rule you must follow. Never clean a 1954 D-wheat penny. Cleaning removes original surfaces and creates hairline scratches that instantly lower value. Even if a coin looks dark or dull, Collectors prefer natural aging over polish shine. If you believe you have a high-grade example or a noticeable error, consider professional grading. Certification confirms authenticity and assigns an official condition grade, which can significantly impact value. Now think about this. The 1954 D. wheat pennies circulated during the Eisenhower administration. It existed before the interstate highway system was fully built, before the moon landing, before the digital age. It's part of the final stretch of the original wheat cent design, only 4 years before the reverse change to the Lincoln Memorial in 1959. Millions were made, but far fewer survive today in pristine, untouched condition. Most people see a 1954 penny and assume it's too common to matter, but condition separates ordinary coins from valuable ones. So here's what you should do. Check the date, 1954. Look for the D mint mark under the date. Examine Lincoln's hair for sharp detail. Inspect the wheat stalks for full lines. Look at the color, brown, red-brown, or red. Search carefully for unusual features or mint errors. And most importantly, leave the coin exactly as you found it. Because while most 1954 D-wheat pennies are modestly priced, a high-grade, full red, sharply struck example could be worth far more than you ever expected. Sometimes the coins people ignore the most are the ones that reward the careful eye.